47 people in Madison Square Garden that night knew who Bruce Lee was. The wrestling champion in the ring didn't. The promoters didn't. The referees didn't. 19,500 fans watching the WWF Championship celebration didn't recognize the small Chinese man sitting quietly in section 214. That was about to change in the most shocking way possible. In the next 11 minutes, the invincible wrestling legend would learn something that 7 years of dominance never taught him, and everyone in that arena would witness an encounter so unbelievable, so controversial, that wrestling historians would debate whether it even happened. This is what really went down on November 8, 1972. This is the night nobody could forget. New York City, Madison Square Garden, November 8, 1972. Wednesday evening, 9:43 p.m. The main event just ended 4 minutes ago. The world's most famous arena is still electric, packed wall to wall, every one of its 19,500 seats filled with fans who paid good money to see their hero. The smell of cigar smoke hangs thick in the air, mixing with hot dogs, beer, and the unmistakable scent of a crowd that's been screaming for 3 hours straight. This isn't just another wrestling show. This is Madison Square Garden. This is the Mecca. This is where legends are born and destroyed. Center ring stands Bruno Sammartino, barely sweating, his opponent already being helped to the back by medics. Bruno is 37 years old, but looks like he was chiseled by Michelangelo himself. 5 foot 10 inches, 265 pounds of pure functional strength, no bodybuilder aesthetics, just raw power built from years of lifting, training, surviving. His chest is a barrel, his arms are massive, his legs are tree trunks. He's been the WWF World Heavyweight Champion for 2,803 consecutive days, the longest title reign in professional wrestling history, a record that still stands today in 1972, and nobody believes anyone will ever break it. The ring announcer, voice booming through the ancient speaker system, makes it official. Your winner by pinfall, and still the WWF World Heavyweight Champion, the Italian Superman, Bruno Sammartino. The garden explodes into pure chaos, 20,000 voices merging into one deafening roar that shakes the old building to its foundation. Bruno lifts his championship belt high, the leather strap dark with age and sweat, the gold plates reflecting the house lights, creating an almost religious glow around him. He looks like a conqueror, a gladiator, a man who cannot be beaten because he has never been beaten. Bruno circles the ring slowly, methodically, pointing to different sections, acknowledging his people. Most of these fans are immigrants like him, Italians who came to America with nothing, worked crushing jobs, raised families in tiny apartments, and see Bruno as living proof that one of their own can rise to the top. To them, Bruno isn't just a wrestler. He's a symbol, a hero, a representative of everything they hope their children can achieve. The devotion is real, pure, almost frightening in its intensity. But tonight, something is different. Bruno doesn't just want to celebrate another victory. Tonight, Bruno has something to prove, something that's been eating at him for months. He motions for the microphone, waving off the referee who tries to move him along. End the show. Clear the ring. The crowd settles into anticipatory silence, eager to hear what their champion wants to say. Bruno's voice, when it comes, is deep, powerful, carrying just a trace of his Italian accent that he never lost despite 2 decades in America. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about something important tonight. The crowd leans in. Thousands of faces turned upward toward the ring. Spotlights making Bruno look even larger than life. For 7.5 years, I have been your champion. 7.5 years, I have defended this belt against every challenger. Every wrestler who thought he was tough enough, strong enough, man enough to take this from me. He raises the championship again, letting it catch the light. They all failed. Every single one of them. You know why? The crowd waits, silent. Because I am the strongest man in this building. The strongest man in this city, maybe the strongest man in the world. Cheers erupt, but some wrestling purists in the crowd exchange concerned glances. Bruno is usually humble, gracious in victory, respectful to opponents. This bragging, this arrogance, it's out of character, unsettling. Something is driving him tonight, pushing him beyond his normal boundaries. Bruno paces the ring, warming to his subject, his confidence building with each word. But I'm tired of people questioning whether my strength is real. I'm tired of hearing that wrestling is fake, that my power is for show, that these muscles are just for cameras. I'm tired of these martial arts people, these karate and kung fu schools opening up all over New York, claiming their students can beat wrestlers, claiming their little kicks and chops are more effective than real, raw, pure strength. The tension in the garden shifts, becomes uncomfortable. Wrestling versus martial arts is a minefield in 1972. Muhammad Ali has been making noise about fighting a Japanese wrestler named Antonio Inoki. Martial arts movies from Hong Kong are starting to gain popularity in American theaters. The lines between entertainment and reality, between performance and legitimate fighting, are blurring and nobody knows quite how to handle it. Bruno stops pacing, plants his feet wide, championship on his shoulder, microphone gripped tight. So tonight, right here, right now, I want to make something very clear. I challenge any martial artist in this arena, any karate black belt, any kung fu master, anyone who thinks their fancy techniques can match real strength. Come down to this ring and test yourself against me. Not wrestling rules, just man against man. Your martial arts against my power. Let's see what's real. The garden goes silent. 20,000 people frozen, processing what they just heard. This isn't a worked wrestling challenge with a predetermined outcome. This is Bruno Sammartino, the unbeatable champion, calling out real martial artists for what sounds like a legitimate confrontation. The security guards stationed around ringside tense up, hands moving toward their radios. Backstage, promoter Vince McMahon Sr. is probably scrambling, panicking, trying to figure out what Bruno is doing, why he's going off script, how to shut this down before it becomes a disaster. 30 seconds pass. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. The silence stretches, becomes awkward, then vindicating. Bruno's smile grows wider, more satisfied. I thought so. All these tough guys with their black belts and their studios charging money to teach people how to fight. But when a real strongman, a real champion challenges them, they sit quiet. They sit safe in their seats. They sit afraid. From section 214, upper deck, stage left, 3/4 of the way up, a voice emerges. Not loud or aggressive, not trying to make a scene, just clear and calm and impossible to ignore despite the arena's size. I accept your challenge. The words cut through the silence like a blade through silk. Every head in the garden turns, 20,000 necks craning toward the source, trying to find who spoke, who was brave enough or foolish enough to answer Bruno Sammartino's call. Bruno squints toward section 214. The house lights in his eyes, making it hard to see the upper sections clearly. Who said that? Stand up. Show yourself. A figure rises in section 214. Row M, seat 7. He's small, noticeably small even from a distance, wearing simple civilian clothes, black pants, a dark shirt, nothing flashy or attention-grabbing. He doesn't look like a martial artist. He doesn't look like a fighter. He looks like a spectator who wandered into the wrong confrontation. Bruno's smile widens, becomes patronizing, almost cruel. This is perfect. This is exactly what he wanted. Some small guy, probably watched too many kung fu movies, thinks he can challenge the champion. Bruno can make an example, prove his point in front of 20,000 witnesses. You want to come down here? You want to test your martial arts against my strength? The small man in section 214 nods once, doesn't shout, doesn't gesture, just stands there calmly, waiting. Well, come on down then. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. This brave man wants to learn a lesson tonight. The crowd's reaction is mixed. Some cheering for the drama, some laughing at what seems like a ridiculous mismatch, some staying silent, uncomfortable with where this is going. The small man begins moving down the aisle, passing rows of seats, people turning to look at him as he descends. As he gets closer to ringside, the people near the aisle can see him more clearly. He's maybe 5'7", probably weighs 140 pounds soaking wet, moves with unusual fluidity, unusual grace, but looks completely unthreatening in his street clothes. Bruno watches him approach, his confidence absolute, his smile never faltering. This is going to be easy. This is going to prove everything he wanted to prove. The small man reaches ringside, and one of the 47 people in the garden who recognizes him grabs his companion's arm, whispers urgently, "That's Bruce Lee. That's the guy from the Green Hornet. That's the Kung Fu guy." The companion's eyes widen. Are you serious? Oh man, Bruno has no idea what he just did. They're sitting 8 rows back, close enough to see everything that's about to happen, too far away to warn anyone. The small man climbs the ring steps with quiet efficiency. No showboating, no hesitation, just smooth economical movement. He ducks through the ropes and stands in the ring, and now everyone can see the size difference clearly. Bruno Sammartino towers over him, outweighs him by over 120 pounds, looks like a different species entirely. Bruno is a mountain of muscle wrapped in wrestling trunks and boots. The small man looks like someone's accountant who took a wrong turn on the way to the bathroom. Bruno holds the microphone close, his voice dripping with amusement. "What's your name, friend?" The small man speaks clearly, his voice carrying despite not being amplified. "Bruce Lee." Most of the crowd doesn't react because most of the crowd has never heard that name. A few scattered people sit up straighter, suddenly very interested. Bruno nods, still smiling. Bruce Lee. Okay, Bruce. And you do martial arts? What style? Bruce's answer is simple, direct. I teach Chinese martial arts, Wing Chun primarily, and my own system, Jeet Kune Do. Bruno has never heard of any of those things. Wing Chun sounds like a Chinese restaurant. Jeet Kune Do sounds made up. He's encountered plenty of martial artists over the years, judo guys mostly, some karate. All of them talked a big game until they felt real wrestling strength, real champion power. This will be no different. Chinese martial arts. Kung Fu, right? Like in the movies? There's condescension in his voice now, dismissiveness. Yes. Bruce says simply, not taking the bait, not getting defensive, just stating facts. Bruno addresses the crowd again, playing to them, building the drama. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Bruce Lee here, a kung fu teacher who thinks his movie fighting can match real strength. Let's see, shall we? The crowd is buzzing now, some laughing, some curious, some uncomfortable. This wasn't supposed to happen tonight. This wasn't part of the show. The referee looks confused, glancing toward the back, waiting for someone to tell him what to do. Nobody comes. The promoters are probably arguing backstage, trying to decide whether to stop this or let it play out. Bruno hands the microphone to the ring announcer, then turns to face Bruce fully. He settles into a wrestler's stance, wide base, hands up, ready to lock up for a collar and elbow tie-up, the standard beginning of every wrestling match. His plan is simple. He'll grab this little guy, feel how light he is, how weak, then lift him, maybe press him overhead, show everyone the difference between real strength and martial arts fantasy. Maybe he'll be gentle, make it educational rather than brutal. Maybe he'll set Bruce down easy. Send him back to his seat with a lesson learned and his ego bruised, but his body intact. Bruce doesn't take a wrestling stance. He stands naturally, feet shoulder width, weight centered, hands up but relaxed, open palms rather than closed fists. To Bruno, it doesn't look like a fighting stance at all. It looks like someone standing casually, unprepared, vulnerable. This is going to be even easier than he thought. Bruno decides to give Bruce one more chance to back out. Show some mercy. Prove he's not just a bully. You sure you want to do this, Bruce? No shame in changing your mind. I'm much bigger than you, much stronger. I don't want to hurt you. Bruce's expression doesn't change. Calm, neutral, almost meditative. I'm sure. But let's be clear about something first. You said man against man, strength against martial arts. But I want to know, are you trying to hurt me or are you trying to prove a point? Bruno considers the question, surprised by it. Prove a point. I'm not trying to injure you. I just want to show that strength is more important than technique. Bruce nods once. Good. Then let's demonstrate. You try your strength. I'll show you why technique matters. The crowd is silent again, sensing something significant about to happen. Not understanding what exactly, but feeling the weight of the moment. Bruno moves first, stepping forward with surprising speed for a man his size, arms reaching to grab Bruce in a standard collar and elbow lockup. His hands are massive, like catcher's mitts, calloused and powerful from years of gripping opponents, lifting weights, building the legendary strength that's defined his career. Bruce isn't there when Bruno's hands close. He's moved just slightly, just enough, offline to Bruno's right. Bruno's momentum carries him forward a step, his hands grasping empty air where Bruce stood a fraction of a second earlier. Bruno recovers quickly, resets, tries again. He's not concerned yet. Opponents miss their first grab attempts all the time. He adjusts his approach, feints left, shoots right, trying to cut off Bruce's movement, use his size to corner him, limit his options. Bruce flows away from the attempt, not running, not scrambling, just shifting position with minimal movement, economic and efficient. He's reading Bruno's weight distribution, seeing the setup before the attempt happens, responding to intention rather than action. Bruno is fast for his size, but size itself creates telegraphs. Momentum that must be managed, weight that must be committed. Bruce sees all of it, processes all of it, stays one beat ahead. Bruno tries 5 more times, getting progressively more frustrated, more aggressive. Collar and elbow attempts, single leg takedown shoots, even a straightforward charging grab like he's trying to tackle someone. Nothing connects. Bruce isn't running away or avoiding engagement out of fear. He's simply not present when Bruno's strength arrives at any given point in space. The crowd begins to murmur, confused, intrigued. Bruno isn't landing anything, isn't grabbing anything, isn't demonstrating his strength at all because he can't catch his opponent. The realization starts to creep into Bruno's mind, cold and unwelcome. This small man isn't lucky. He isn't just evading randomly. He's reading everything, seeing everything, responding with precision that suggests deep understanding, sophisticated timing, reflexes that seem impossible. Bruno decides to change tactics. If he can't grab Bruce, maybe he can crowd him, use his size to push Bruce into a corner, limit his movement space, force engagement where evasion becomes impossible. Bruno advances, arms wide, trying to herd Bruce toward the corner. Bruce allows himself to be moved, backing toward the turnbuckles, seemingly trapped. Bruno's confidence returns. Got him now, nowhere to go. He steps in close, preparing to use his bulk, his weight, his overwhelming physical advantage. This is where wrestling trumps everything else. In close quarters where size matters. Where strength dominates, where 265 pounds beats 140 pounds every single time. Bruce waits until Bruno is fully committed, weight forward, arms reaching, then he moves, not backward into the corner where Bruno expects, but forward, inside, into Bruno's space before Bruno can close his arms. Bruce's movement is serpent quick, flowing water, there and gone. His right hand rises, fingers extended, stopping exactly 1 inch from Bruno's throat. Not a punch, not a strike, just a position, a demonstration. His left hand simultaneously controls Bruno's right elbow. Subtle pressure that disrupts Bruno's balance just enough to matter. For one frozen moment, they're locked there. Bruce inside Bruno's guard, hand at Bruno's throat. Bruno unable to bring his strength to bear because the position is all wrong. His leverage is gone, his balance is compromised. Then Bruce releases, steps back, gives Bruno space, resets to neutral. The entire sequence took less than 3 seconds. Most of the crowd didn't fully understand what they just saw. But Bruno understood. Bruno felt it. That hand at his throat could have struck, could have damaged his windpipe, could have ended the confrontation with Bruno unable to breathe, unable to continue. Bruno steps back. Breathing heavier now, reassessing. This isn't some movie actor who got lucky. This is someone who understands fighting at a level Bruno never encountered in professional wrestling. Wrestling is about strength, leverage, positioning. But it's also about cooperation, choreography, predetermined outcomes. This is something different. This is someone who's been in real confrontations, developed real skills, understands real violence in ways that professional wrestling never explores. The crowd senses the shift in energy. The laughter is gone. The casual amusement has evaporated. Something real is happening in the ring. Something unscripted. Something dangerous. Bruno's pride won't let him stop. Won't let him back down. Won't let him admit that maybe he made a mistake challenging martial artists without understanding what modern martial arts actually involves. He settles into his stance again. More cautious now. More respectful. But still confident in his ultimate advantage. He's still bigger. Still stronger. Still the champion. Bruno tries a different approach, using movement instead of static attempts to grab. He circles Bruce, changing directions, using footwork to create angles, looking for an opening, a moment of vulnerability, a chance to apply his strength advantage. Bruce mirrors him, maintains distance, stays centered, stays balanced. His hands are always in position, always ready, always between himself and Bruno's potential attacks. His eyes never leave Bruno's center mass, reading posture, reading weight distribution, reading intention. Bruno shoots suddenly, changing levels, dropping for a double leg takedown, the fundamental wrestling attack, what you use when nothing else works. Get low, drive through the opponent's hips, take them to the ground where weight and strength matter most. It's worked 10,000 times in Bruno's career against opponents who knew it was coming. It should definitely work against someone who weighs 140 pounds and has never wrestled professionally. Bruce's knee comes up, not hard, not trying to knock Bruno out, just intercepting, creating a frame that stops Bruno's forward momentum. Simultaneously, Bruce's hands control Bruno's shoulders, redirecting the takedown attempt, using Bruno's own force against him. Bruno finds himself off balance, committed to a direction that's no longer viable, his power working against him instead of for him. He catches himself before falling, gets his hands down, pushes back to standing, but the message is clear. Even wrestling techniques, pure wrestling attacks, aren't working against this person. The 47 people in the garden who know who Bruce Lee is are watching with knowing expressions. Some smiling slightly, some shaking their heads at Bruno's situation. One of them, a martial artist named Dan Inosanto, who came to watch his friend perform, sits in section 118, close enough to see the technical details, far enough away that he can't intervene. He knows exactly what Bruce is doing, knows the Wing Chun principles being applied, knows the Jeet Kune Do concepts being demonstrated. He also knows that Bruno has no reference point for any of this, no training to counter it, no experience against someone who moves like water and strikes like lightning. Bruno tries 3 more takedown attempts, each one more desperate, each one neutralized with minimal effort. Single leg, high crotch, even a fireman's carry attempt. Nothing works. Bruce isn't just defending, he's educating. Showing that technique properly applied can neutralize strength advantages. That understanding body mechanics matters more than raw power. That 7.5 years of professional wrestling dominance doesn't translate to understanding real martial arts combat. Part 3. 12,000 characters. Bruno straightens up, breathing hard now, sweat beginning to show on his forehead despite the November chill in the garden. His legendary cardio, built from decades of training and wrestling 30-minute matches without fatigue, is holding up fine. But his frustration is mounting, his confidence is cracking, and the crowd is starting to react differently. The laughter is completely gone now, replaced by hushed conversations, confused murmurs, a sense that something unprecedented is unfolding in the ring. Bruno the Invincible, Bruno the Unstoppable, Bruno the strongest man alive, cannot land a single technique on a man half his size. Bruce remains calm, centered, his breathing barely elevated. He's not showboating, not gloating, not making Bruno look foolish deliberately. He's simply demonstrating principles, illustrating concepts, proving points without malice or ego. But the demonstration itself is devastating to Bruno's claim, to his challenge, to everything he said into that microphone 8 minutes ago. Bruno decides on one final attempt. Something direct, something that doesn't require complex technique or setup. He's going to use pure strength, pure power, the very thing he claimed was superior to martial arts. Bruno charges forward, not trying to grab or take down, just rushing with his shoulder down, intending to bulldoze Bruce, knock him over through sheer mass and momentum, prove that when you strip away technique and just apply raw force, size matters, weight matters, strength matters. It's a crude approach, almost desperate. But it's honest. This is what Bruno does best, overwhelming opponents with physical superiority that cannot be denied, cannot be countered, cannot be escaped. Bruce sees it coming, reads Bruno's commitment, understands the intention. Instead of trying to stop 265 pounds of charging wrestler, which would be nearly impossible, Bruce does something that contradicts every instinct most fighters have. He moves toward the charge, not away from it. He steps in at an angle inside the line of force, where Bruno's momentum becomes a liability instead of an advantage. His hand shoots out, palm strike position, stopping exactly 1 inch from Bruno's face, right between the eyes. His other hand controls Bruno's shoulder, adding a slight redirect that sends Bruno stumbling past, his charge carrying him into empty space where Bruce no longer stands. Bruno catches himself on the ropes, spins around, and for the first time tonight, real doubt shows on his face. Not just frustration, not just confusion, but genuine doubt about whether he can actually touch this person, whether his strength means anything if he can't apply it, whether everything he believed about power versus technique might be wrong. The crowd sees it too, that moment of vulnerability on their champion's face, and the garden goes completely silent. 20,000 people holding their breath, waiting to see what happens next. Bruce speaks, his voice quiet but carrying in the silence. "You're very strong, Mr. Sammartino. Probably the strongest man I've ever stood across from. Your power is real, not fake, not for show. But strength without understanding is like a sword without a handle. Dangerous to everyone, including the person who wields it." Bruno stares at him, chest heaving, pride wounded, ego shattered, but intelligence intact. He's not a stupid man, never has been. He survived a Nazi occupation as a child in Italy, immigrated to America with nothing, built himself into a legend through discipline and dedication. He can recognize truth when he hears it, even when that truth is painful. "What do you mean?" Bruno asks, his voice lower now, the bravado gone, genuine curiosity replacing arrogance. Bruce gestures to the space between them. "Every time you tried to grab me, you telegraphed your intention 3 movements early. Your eyes looked where you wanted to grab. Your weight shifted before you committed. Your shoulders tensed before your arms moved. You were showing me your plan before you executed it. That's not a strength problem. That's an awareness problem." The crowd leans in, straining to hear, sensing that this has transformed from a confrontation into something else, something educational, something valuable. Bruce continues, his tone respectful, not condescending, teacher to student rather than victor to defeated. "And when you charged at me, you used all your strength in one direction, committed everything to that line of attack. When I stepped offline, your momentum became your enemy. The stronger you are, the harder you fall when your force is redirected. That's not weakness, that's physics, that's principle." Bruno absorbs this, processing, understanding starting to dawn. His entire career has been built on strength, on power, on overwhelming opponents with superior physicality. Nobody ever taught him about telegraphing, about economy of motion, about using an opponent's force against them. Why would they? In professional wrestling, his opponents cooperate, help him execute moves, work together to create entertainment. Real fighting, real martial arts, operates on completely different principles that Bruno never needed to learn, never thought to study, never imagined would matter. You could have hit me, Bruno says, statement not question, realization settling in. Several times. Bruce nods once. The first time, when you tried the collar and elbow. The third time, when you shot for the double leg. The last time, when you charged. At least 3 clear opportunities where I could have struck effectively. I didn't. Because you said you wanted to prove a point, not to hurt me. I'm also trying to prove a point, not to hurt you. The honesty of it, the straightforwardness, cuts through Bruno's ego in a way that arrogance or mockery never could. This small man could have made him look foolish, could have actually struck him, could have humiliated the champion in front of 20,000 people. Instead, he chose education over embarrassment, demonstration over destruction, principles over pride. Bruno stands there, the WWF Championship belt still over his shoulder, symbol of 7.5 years of dominance, and realizes that dominance in one arena doesn't translate to dominance in all arenas. Can you show me? Bruno asks suddenly, the question surprising everyone, including himself. Show me what I'm doing wrong. Show me how to stop telegraphing, how to be more aware. Bruce looks at him for a long moment, measuring sincerity, finding it genuine. That would take time. Training, dedication. Not something I can teach in a wrestling ring in front of 20,000 people. But yes, if you're serious about learning, I can show you. Bruno makes a decision, one that will surprise the wrestling world, confuse his fans, and ultimately change his approach to everything. He raises his hand, gestures to the ring announcer for the microphone. The announcer, who's been standing frozen in the corner watching this entire surreal encounter, hands it over with shaking hands. Bruno's voice, when he speaks, lacks the confidence from 10 minutes ago, but holds something more valuable. Humility. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say something. I challenged martial artists tonight because I believed strength was everything. That power could overcome any technique. This man, Bruce Lee, has shown me I was wrong. He's shown me that understanding, awareness, and proper technique can neutralize even the greatest strength advantage. He could have made me look foolish. Instead, he chose to teach me a lesson with respect and dignity. The crowd doesn't know how to react. This is unprecedented territory, their invincible champion admitting mistake, acknowledging defeat without actually being defeated. Bruno turns to Bruce, extends his hand. Thank you for the lesson. I hope you'll forgive my arrogance, my disrespect to martial arts. I didn't understand. Now I'm beginning to. Bruce takes his hand, shakes it firmly. You have nothing to apologize for. Your strength is real, your achievements are remarkable. You just needed to understand that strength is one tool, not the only tool. You're already a champion. Now you can become a complete fighter. The garden erupts. Not the wild cheering from earlier, but something different, deeper, more thoughtful. Applause mixed with astonishment, appreciation for witnessing something genuine, something unscripted, something that transcended entertainment and touched something real. The 47 people who knew who Bruce Lee was are smiling, nodding, telling their neighbors, spreading the word. By tomorrow, everyone in New York's martial arts community will know what happened tonight. By next week, the story will spread across the country. By next month, it will become legend. Bruce leaves the ring the same way he entered, quietly, without fanfare, climbing through the ropes and descending the steps while Bruno stands center ring, still processing, still absorbing the magnitude of what just occurred. As Bruce walks up the aisle back to section 214, people reach out to touch him, to thank him, to ask questions. He acknowledges them politely but keeps moving, not seeking attention, not capitalizing on the moment, just a martial artist who demonstrated his art when challenged and now wants to return to being a spectator. Dan Inosanto meets him at the section entrance, grinning ear to ear. That was beautiful, man. The restraint, the control, the teaching. Perfect Jeet Kune Do demonstration. Bruce shrugs slightly. He's a good man, just ignorant about martial arts. Strength like that, combined with proper understanding, he could be truly dangerous. Dan nods. Think he'll actually come train? Bruce considers. Maybe. Pride is a powerful teacher. Tonight his pride took a hit. Tomorrow, when he stops hurting, he'll start thinking. We'll see if his ego can handle being a student again after so many years as a champion. The next morning, Bruno Sammartino wakes up in his New Jersey home, makes coffee, sits at his kitchen table, and thinks about the previous night. No physical soreness, Bruce never actually struck him, but his ego aches, his certainty is shaken, his worldview has cracks that weren't there 24 hours ago. His wife Maria asks what's wrong, and he tells her the story, the challenge, the small Chinese man, the lesson learned. Maria, who's always been the wise one in their relationship, says something that settles it. So go learn from him. You've never been afraid of hard work. Why start now? 3 days later, Bruno shows up at Bruce Lee's Junfan Kung Fu Institute in Los Angeles. He took a flight specifically for this, clearing his schedule, telling the promoters he needs a few days off. Bruce is teaching a class when Bruno arrives, working with students on Chi Sao, the sticky hand sensitivity training fundamental to Wing Chun. He sees Bruno enter, nods acknowledgement, finishes the class. When the students leave, Bruce approaches. You came. Bruno nods. You said if I was serious. I'm serious. For the next 6 months, whenever his wrestling schedule allows, Bruno trains with Bruce. Not full-time, not enough to become a martial artist, but enough to understand principles, to unlearn telegraphing, to develop awareness he never knew existed. He learns about economy of motion, about reading opponents, about using force efficiently instead of overwhelmingly. His wrestling improves, becomes more fluid, more adaptive. He starts seeing openings he never noticed before, timing his moves differently, applying his legendary strength with greater precision. In the ring, opponents notice the change. Bruno is still Bruno, still powerful, still dominant, but there's a difference in how he moves, how he reacts, how he controls matches. Wrestlers who faced him before find him somehow more difficult despite using the same moves, and they can't quite articulate why. Bruno holds the WWF Championship for 2 more years after that night in Madison Square Garden, finally losing it in 1977 to superstar Billy Graham, ending an 11-year combined reign that remains the longest in professional wrestling history. But Bruno never forgets November 8, 1972, the night his arrogance met humility in front of 20,000 witnesses, the night he learned that strength is a gift, but understanding is wisdom. The night a small Chinese man named Bruce Lee taught the strongest wrestler in the world that there's always something new to learn, always a higher level to reach, always room for growth, no matter how many championships you've won or how many years you've dominated your field. The 47 people in Madison Square Garden who knew who Bruce Lee was that night, they told everyone. Within weeks, the martial arts community across America knew the story. Within months, wrestling insiders heard versions of it. Within years, it became one of those legendary encounters, debated, embellished, questioned, but never forgotten. Some said Bruce knocked Bruno down. Some said they actually fought for 20 minutes. Some claimed Bruce beat 3 wrestlers that night. None of that happened. But the truth was remarkable enough without embellishment. Bruce Lee died less than a year later, on July 20, 1973, in Hong Kong. He was 32 years old. When Bruno heard the news, he sat alone in his gym, holding the Wing Chun wooden dummy Bruce had sent him as a gift, and cried. Not many people knew about their connection, about the training sessions, about the respect that had grown between the Italian wrestler and the Chinese martial artist. But Bruno knew, and he carried that knowledge for the rest of his life. In interviews decades later, Bruno would occasionally mention that night, when pressed about his greatest challenges, his most memorable moments. He always told it the same way, honestly, without trying to diminish what happened, without making excuses. I thought strength was everything, he'd say. Bruce Lee taught me that understanding is everything and strength is just one piece. That lesson made me a better wrestler, a better fighter, and a better man. I wish I'd had more time to learn from him. I wish the world had more time with him. November 8, 1972, Madison Square Garden. The night 9,500 people came to watch wrestling and witnessed something else entirely. The night Bruno Sammartino's invincibility met Bruce Lee's inevitability. The night strength learned to bow to wisdom. The night the strongest man in wrestling discovered he still had everything to learn. 20,000 witnesses, 47 who knew what they were seeing, 1 champion who had his eyes opened, and 1 martial artist who proved his point without throwing a single punch. This is what really happened. This is the story they never forgot.